Hi, this is Bob Williamson. We all know it's a tough market and a tough economy. Some of us are dealing with it a lot better than others. If you're one of those mortgage originators who's doing very well right now, my compliments to you. You can still get value from this video, but I'm mostly speaking right now to those of you who are stuck, those of you who are disappointed with your results, and those of you who are downright discouraged. I think you probably have a pretty clear idea of the things you need to do in order to be successful right now. I've written and recorded a great deal about that in the past, and if you need a refresher, you can find this material on my website. Very briefly, there are 7 critical skills that you'll want to develop in yourself and implement. You want to use these skills every day in your business if you're going to survive and thrive in the middle of what may well be the most difficult housing and mortgage market since the Great Depression. The first skill is real estate knowledge, knowledge of your local market. The right mortgage loan can make owning a home more affordable, but the most important factors for the home buyer's quality of life and financial well-being are finding the right home and negotiating the price they pay for that home. If you don't know your real estate market, you're missing an opportunity to separate yourself from your competition and significantly improve the value of the service you offer your clients. In every market across the country, no matter how distressed, transactions are being done. If you don't know your real estate market, you won't know where the opportunities are or how to find them. The second skill, marketing, is what you do to generate leads. And too many loan officers have failed to develop the skills necessary to supply themselves with a steady supply of new leads. Sales. I would define this skill as the ability to approach your prospects with a sense of empathy and a sincere desire to serve. The best sales professionals are expert communicators. So not only can they explain an idea or a concept in an interesting way, but more importantly, they have the ability to ask great questions and listen carefully to what their prospects say. When your listening skills are at least as good as your speaking skills, you can create rapport and trust with almost anyone. Financial competency is about being able to speak with credibility and authority, not just about the loan program, but about how the purchase of a home and mortgage financing will fit into the client's overall financial future and well-being. Too many loan officers lack this ability to see the big picture, the big financial picture. They may understand it or some of it, but they can't explain it to clients so that the clients understand it. Technology. This may be the biggest Achilles heel I encounter in loan officers. You need to be proficient with database software, with calendaring or scheduling software, email, word processing, graphic design, websites, and more. You need to know how to put on a webinar. You need to be able to create a video presentation or an audio email. And if you don't know how to do these things, you're in danger of becoming obsolete. Leadership isn't just for managers. If you have a clear vision, if you can influence and persuade people to take action, and if you have the courage to persist in the face of obstacles and never ever give up, you will be much more effective in dealing with prospects, clients, processors, underwriters, real estate agents, and so forth. Systems, planning, time management. Simply put, it's about getting the right things done and getting them done well enough that they move you closer to your goals. This is another area where I'd have to say the majority of loan officers I've encountered are falling short. I've coached hundreds of loan officers over the years. I'm talking about coaching relationships that have been personal and deep, where I really get to know the person and how their mind works. And I found that there are basically 2 types of mindsets. People with fixed mindsets tend to believe they have to work with the intelligence and talent they already have. They think that if you're not already good at something, there's not much you can do to get better. And very often, they try very hard to convince others that they know a lot more than they really do. They're embarrassed to admit any kind of deficiency. And surprisingly, it's often the smartest people that are stuck in this kind of fixed mindset. Somewhere along the line, they got the idea that it was more important to look smart to others than it was to improve and learn. Other people, on the other hand, possess a growth mindset, which means their core belief is that you can get better at virtually any skill. They have no problem admitting that they don't know something where they're not good at something, because they believe there's no shame in not knowing something, that acknowledging a skill deficiency is the first step to learning and getting better at it. Fortunately, you can change your mindset. Wherever you are on the continuum of mastering the 7 critical skills I just described, you can learn and grow and get better at every single one of these 7 skills. And there's a bonus. You'll find that if you adopt a growth mindset, it'll be a lot easier for you to find the motivation to put in the effort required to get better at any of these skills. The motivation will be there because you'll discover that putting in the effort and growing and learning, these things are fun. For most of you, I would go so far as to say, for all of you actually, that this is not a question of not knowing what you need to do. This is not a question of not knowing how important it is that you do it. This is simply a question of not doing it, or of not doing it consistently and persistently. A very large part of my career as a coach has been spent wrestling with the question of what keeps an otherwise intelligent and hardworking person from doing the things that he or she knows they need to do to succeed. In some ways, there are many possible answers to this question, and the reasons are as varied and unique as the people I've worked with. But in one very important respect, there really is only one answer, and that's this. People always do what they would rather do than not do. So when you tell yourself, or when you tell somebody else, that you really want to do X, but that you just can't seem to get yourself to do it, I have to be very blunt with you. You're lying to yourself. You don't do X because you don't want to do it. The problem is you don't want to do it, but you also don't want the consequences that will surely come to you if you don't do it. And in that moment of choice, when you decide not to do it, and there is a moment when you do make that decision, you're also choosing the consequences, and then you pretend that those consequences won't come. I'll illustrate this with one of the 7 critical skills I just described, with time management. Benjamin Franklin said that by failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. Every day, you have a fresh opportunity to have the kind of day that makes a positive difference in your business and for your clients and partners. I know that every single one of you knows that the better you prepare and plan for a day, the greater is the likelihood you're going to end up having a day you can be proud of. I can't imagine that you could have gotten through this life so far without knowing and understanding the importance and value of preparation and planning. Now, here on your screen is a tool that can help you with that. This is a simple Excel spreadsheet. You start by identifying the primary types of results that you're called on to produce in your work, the most important results you have to produce. And then you create, this is basically just a standard schedule, or a template for one, that represents what would be an ideal week for you, and that blocks out enough time for each of those key results. If you do that, you give yourself your best chance of being able to balance your responsibilities with the time that's available for you to do your work. Now, creating a time blocking schedule like this is only the first step. If you're going to, for example, spend an hour or 2 hours every day calling realtors and buyer prospects, you also need to identify the specific people you are going to be calling the next day. And you need to prepare for yourself in writing the purpose of the call and notes to yourself about the points you want to cover in that call, just using the example of making phone calls to people. In other words, don't just put things on a to-do list and expect they're going to get done, especially if you just state them as a general category like making calls. You're like a car that has two speeds. One is a reflective thinking planning mode, and your other speed is your action mode. You can't be reflective when you're in action mode, and vice versa. If you want your action to flow and be effective, like during your actual work day, which is when you're performing, you're on stage, this is your time to produce. So if you want your action to flow and be effective, you need to prepare for it first when you're in reflective mode. You know, say the evening before or the early in the morning before your day starts, by picturing the result and thinking through the actions you'll have to take to produce that result. When you do that, instead of preparing to fail, you're preparing to succeed. The great motivational speaker Jim Rohn used to say a couple of things that are relevant to what I'm talking about here. Disgust and resolve are two of the great emotions that lead to change. And I would add, by the way, that hope does not lead to change, at least not the kind of change you're hoping for. Sometimes you just have to get sick and tired of being sick and tired. When you're sick and tired enough, that's when you start to turn it around. The second quote, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day, while failure is simply a few errors in judgment repeated every day. It is the accumulative weight of our disciplines and our judgments that leads us to either fortune or failure. So success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. Simple disciplines like these. Plan each day ahead of time in specific detail. Think about the task you're scheduling. Picture yourself doing it, and make sure you will have ready at hand everything you're going to need to complete that task. Always be looking for ways to build your mailing lists of realtors and buyer prospects. Write and send emails regularly to each of your lists. I'd recommend at least once a week. Make sure that you're contributing value in those emails. Check to see who's opening and clicking on the links in your emails. Schedule them for personal follow-ups and use the opportunity to interview those people about the challenges they're facing so that you can find a way to be of service to them. And once you've identified a realtor or a buyer prospect that you think you can help in some way, present your solutions to them and close for a mutual commitment where you're promising to do certain things for them in exchange for them doing certain things for you. Once you've made a promise, do whatever it takes to keep it, because you're only as good as your word. These simple disciplines, and others like it, I'm sure you can think of your own, practiced every day, can revolutionize your business and your life. So go make it happen. Thanks for being here.